The last stand of Station 42. Grand Admiral Vextal stood at the helm of the Crystalline Dominion's flagship, his iridescent scales reflecting the dim starlight as he gazed at the massive structure floating before them. Station 42, as the humans had designated it, hung motionless against the backdrop of space, its weathered hull bearing the scars of centuries. The station had been a source of intrigue for the Dominion's intelligence division for decades, one of the last remnants of humanity's supposed golden age of space exploration. Status report, Vextal commanded, his crystalline voice resonating through the bridge. Station appears completely dormant, Admiral, reported First Observer Rylith, her sensor tendrils weaving through the holographic display. Energy signatures are minimal, consistent with basic life support systems only. Our deep scans show significant structural degradation in the outer hull sections. Vextal's secondary eyes narrowed as he processed this information. The Crystalline Dominion had spent years studying humanity's apparent decline from their brief period of spatial expansion. Where once they had been an emerging power in the galaxy, they had seemingly retreated, maintaining only minimal presence beyond their core systems. Their mighty stations and outposts had been converted to museums and research centers, their warships transformed into tourist vessels. Begin docking procedures, he ordered. I want engineering teams ready for immediate deployment, security teams to follow standard protocols for abandoned human installations. As the massive Dominion warship maneuvered into position, Vextal received the first visual feeds from the scout drones. The station's docking bays were lined with decommissioned fighter craft, their hulls dulled with age. Information plaques dotted the walls, describing the station's historical significance in humanity's early space age. Admiral, called out Strategy Master Kilvik, his crystalline form shifting with concern. Something about this feels wrong. The humans have always been unpredictable. Why would they leave such a strategically positioned station so poorly defended? Vextal dismissed the concern with a wave of his primary manipulator. The humans have grown soft, Kilvik. They've chosen comfort over strength, trade over military might. Their own historical records show this station was decommissioned nearly 50 years ago. The first boarding teams reported in as they breached the station's outer airlocks. Their helmet cameras showed empty corridors lined with display cases containing old spacesuits and weapons. Holographic projectors, long since powered down, stood silent sentinel at regular intervals. Admiral, one of the engineering team leaders reported, we've accessed their primary computer core. It's primitive. The technology here matches everything we expected from a station of this era. No surprises, no hidden systems. Vextal felt satisfaction crystallizing in his core. This would be the perfect forward operating base for the Dominion's long-planned expansion into human space. The station's position at the intersection of three major trade routes made it invaluable, and its apparent abandonment was a gift he intended to exploit fully. Begin power-up procedures, he commanded. I want our systems integrated with the station's infrastructure within the next solar cycle, and continue searching for any useful historical data we might. He never finished the sentence. Throughout the station, the primitive computer cores suddenly surged to life. The holographic projectors that had seemed dead flickered on, but instead of historical recreations, they displayed targeting matrices and weapon systems diagnostics. Admiral, Rylith's voice carried an edge of panic. New energy signatures detected. The station's hull. It's transforming. Before their eyes, the weathered exterior of Station 42 began to shift. What had appeared to be random structural degradation revealed itself as an intricate network of advanced weapon ports. The decommissioned fighters in the landing bays shimmered and changed, their dull hulls becoming sleek, predatory shapes of some unknown alloy. A human voice echoed through every communication channel on both the station and the Dominion ships. This is Station Commander Elena Chen of the Terra Defense Force. I see you found our little museum piece. I do hope you've enjoyed the tour so far. Vextal's crystalline form vibrated with rage and disbelief. Open fire. Destroy that station immediately. But before his gunners could comply, the station's true defenses revealed themselves. The primitive computer core they'd accessed had been a facade, a dummy system designed to be found. The real core, a quantum eye of staggering complexity, had been watching, waiting, and learning their every move since they'd arrived. The decommissioned fighters weren't just for show. They were the latest in human military technology, disguised to look ancient. The historical display cases dissolved, revealing ammunition stores and energy weapons. Even the information plaques transformed, becoming tactical displays that showed the positions of every Dominion ship in the sector. "You see, Admiral," Commander Chen continued, her voice carrying an edge of amusement, "we humans have a saying. The best place to hide something is in plain sight. While your intelligence services were documenting our apparent decline, we were advancing in ways you never thought to look for. Those museum pieces you've been cataloging. They're fully operational military installations, waiting for someone to make exactly the mistake you just made." As if to emphasize her point, more stations began powering up throughout the sector. Dozens of supposedly abandoned human installations revealed their true nature, their combined firepower dwarfing anything the Dominion could bring to bear. "Now then," Chen said, her voice carrying centuries of human military tradition, "shall we discuss the terms of your surrender? Or would you prefer a practical demonstration of why we humans believe in keeping our history very much alive and operational?" Vextal stared at his tactical display, watching as his mighty fleet was surrounded on all sides by weapons that made his most advanced systems look primitive by comparison. In that moment, he understood a fundamental truth about humanity. They hadn't declined at all. They had simply mastered the art of hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for the right moment to reveal their true strength. "We surrender," he declared, his crystalline voice cracking with the admission of defeat. "We surrender unconditionally." "Excellent choice," Chen responded. "Welcome to the museum, Admiral. Today's lesson was on human strategic thinking. I trust it was educational." As Vextal watched his crews being peacefully evacuated by human forces, he couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The crystalline Dominion had expected to find humanity's past preserved in display cases. Instead, they had found its present and future, hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone to make exactly the mistake he had made. The museum would have a new exhibit soon, he realized, and his fleet would be the genuine antiques on display. The ghost in the machine. 3 days before the crystalline Dominion's arrival at Station 42, deep within the Terran Defense Force's actual headquarters on Europa, Dr. Maya Patel watched streams of quantum data flow across her holographic displays. Her creation, the Artificial Defense Intelligence Network, ADIN, was reporting unusual activity at the edges of human space. "They're finally making their move," she muttered, her fingers dancing through the air as she manipulated the data streams. The crystalline Dominion's fleet movements had grown increasingly bold over the past month, probing deeper into what they thought was abandoned human territory. Maya smiled as she thought about the elaborate deception humanity had maintained for the past 50 years. While other species focused on building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humanity had taken a different approach. They had learned that the most effective defense wasn't always the most visible one. "ADIN, show me Station 42's current status," she commanded. The AI's response manifested as a complex three-dimensional projection showing the station's true form beneath its carefully maintained facade of age and decay. Where the Dominion sensors would see corroded hull plates and outdated technology, Maya saw the pinnacle of human engineering. Adaptive metamaterials capable of transforming from seemingly ancient structures into state-of-the-art weapon systems in seconds. Station 42's systems are operating at optimal efficiency, Dr. Patel, ADIN reported, its voice a calm, measured tone that belied its incredible complexity. All masking systems are functioning within expected parameters. The crystalline Dominion's long-range scans continue to detect only what we want them to see. Maya nodded, remembering the day she'd first proposed this strategy to the Terran Defense Council. Many had called her crazy, arguing that deliberately appearing weak would invite attack. But she had convinced them that the best way to study potential adversaries was to let them think they had the upper hand. "Status of the quantum entanglement network," she asked, bringing up another set of displays. "All stations remain synchronized. ADIN confirmed. The moment Station 42 initiates its transformation sequence, the entire network will activate simultaneously. The Dominion won't know what hit them." Maya's attention was drawn to a new alert. The Dominion's flagship had changed course, now heading directly for Station 42. "They took the bait," she whispered. "ADIN, notify Commander Chen. It's time to wake up our sleeping giant." In her office aboard the station, Commander Elena Chen received ADIN's notification with a grim smile. She'd spent the last 5 years playing the role of a simple museum curator, maintaining the illusion of Station 42's obsolescence. Now, finally, it was time to reveal the truth. "Begin silent activation sequence," she ordered, watching as hidden systems throughout the station came to life. The quantum processors that had been masquerading as primitive computer cores spun up to full power, their true capabilities carefully masked behind layers of technological camouflage. The station's real crew, who had been hiding in dimensionally shifted spaces within the station's structure, began taking their positions. They moved through hidden corridors and chambers that existed slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, another innovation that had emerged from humanity's decades of secret advancement. "Commander," ADIN's voice came through her neural link. "The Dominion fleet will be within range in approximately 72 hours. Dr. Patel has authorized the implementation of Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega was Maya's masterpiece, a comprehensive strategy that would use the Dominion's own assumptions against them. Every piece of historical technology they thought they were examining would become a weapon. Every primitive sensor array would reveal itself as a cutting-edge defense system. As Chen walked through the station's corridors, she passed the holographic projectors that the Dominion would soon mistake for simple museum exhibits. Each one contained enough computing power to run a small city, their true purpose masked behind the facade of educational tools. "Status of the metamaterial reconfiguration systems," she asked, pausing to examine what appeared to be an ancient plasma rifle in a display case. The rifle, like everything else in the station, was far more than it appeared. "All systems nominal," ADIN reported. "The station's hull can transition from its current state to full combat configuration in 3.7 seconds. All weapon systems are primed and ready for emergence." Chen nodded, running her hand along a wall that seemed to be showing its age. Beneath her fingers, billions of nanoscale machines waited to transform the entire structure into something the Dominion's weapons couldn't even scratch. "Dr. Patel," she called through her neural link, "are you seeing anything concerning in the Dominion's approach vector?" "Nothing unexpected," Maya responded. "Their scans are exactly as superficial as we hoped they'd be. They're so convinced of our technological regression that they're not even looking for anything more advanced. Pride comes before a fall, as they say." The next 72 hours were a carefully choreographed dance of preparation disguised as inaction. While the Dominion fleet approached, believing they were about to seize an abandoned relic, humanity's most advanced defensive network was silently preparing to spring its trap. In her lab on Europa, Maya watched the final pieces fall into place. The quantum entanglement network that connected all of humanity's supposedly abandoned stations hummed with potential energy. Each installation was ready to shed its disguise and reveal the true extent of human military technology. "It's almost poetic," she mused to ADIN. "They think they're studying history, but they're about to become part of it." "Indeed, Dr. Patel," the AI responded. "The Dominion's archaeological approach to military intelligence has left them vulnerable to precisely this kind of deception. They're so focused on analyzing our past that they've completely misread our present." As the Dominion fleet entered the final approach to Station 42, Maya sent one last message to Commander Chen. "Give them a history lesson they'll never forget." Chen smiled as she received the message. Around her, the station's crew was ready. The seemingly empty corridors concealed enough firepower to take on a fleet twice the size of the one approaching. Every dusty display case, every decommissioned weapon, every historical artifact was about to prove that humanity hadn't forgotten how to fight. They'd just gotten better at hiding their teeth. ADIN, she commanded, begin recording. The Dominion's about to provide us with excellent material for our next museum exhibit. As the first Dominion ships began their docking procedures, Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had no idea they were about to learn the most important lesson in human military history. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one you don't even know exists. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Strategy Master Kilvek of the Crystalline Dominion felt his crystalline structure vibrate with unease as he watched the boarding teams enter Station 42. Something about this conquest felt too easy, but he couldn't crystallize his concerns into anything concrete enough to convince Admiral Vextel to abort the mission. Through the fleet's shared consciousness matrix, he received real-time updates from the engineering teams as they moved deeper into the station. Their reports painted a picture of technological stagnation. Outdated fusion reactors, primitive quantum processors, and weapon systems that belonged in a history archive, which, officially, they were. Admiral Kilvik projected his thoughts through the command channel. Request permission to access the station's historical database. Perhaps we can better understand why humans abandoned such strategic positions. Vextel's acknowledgement came with an undercurrent of amused condescension. Always the scholar, Kilvik. Very well. But don't let your research interfere with the occupation protocols. As Kilvik interfaced with what appeared to be an ancient data core, he began noticing subtle inconsistencies. The historical records were too perfect, too comprehensive. It was as if someone had carefully crafted them to tell exactly the story the Dominion expected to find. Meanwhile, in her lab on Europa, Dr. Maya Patel watched the Dominion's strategy master with growing interest. ADIN, he's picking up on the breadcrumbs we left. Should we accelerate the timeline? The AI's response came after a microsecond of calculation. Negative, Dr. Patel. Let him continue his investigation. The more deeply he probes, the more convincing our revelation will be. Back on Station 42, Commander Chen monitored Kilvik's progress through the station's quantum surveillance network. The strategy master's crystalline form shifted through various analytical configurations as he studied each historical exhibit, his growing uncertainty evident in the irregular patterns of his molecular structure. He's starting to see the pattern, Chen communicated to Maya, but not quite the right one. He thinks he's uncovering evidence of a hidden human resistance movement. Maya smiled at the irony. Perfect. Let him think he's being clever. The truth will be so much more impressive. Throughout the sector, other Dominion scout ships were reporting similar findings at other abandoned human installations. Each station appeared to be nothing more than a perfectly preserved museum piece, a testament to humanity's past glory. But Kilvik was beginning to see connections between them. Admiral, he finally transmitted, his crystalline form pulsing with urgency. I believe these stations form a network. The humans didn't abandon them. They're positioning them for something. Vextel's response carried tones of irritation. Of course they form a network. Strategy Master. They were once humanity's primary defense grid. But that was centuries ago. Your own analysis of their technology confirms their obsolescence. That's just it, Admiral. Kilvik insisted, his form becoming more agitated. The obsolescence is too perfect. It's as if someone wanted us to. His transmission cut off as every system in Station 42 suddenly surged with energy. The holographic projectors that had been displaying historical information now showed real-time tactical data. The seemingly ancient weapon systems began transforming, revealing technology far beyond anything the Dominion had ever encountered. Through the chaos, Dr. Maya Patel's voice echoed through the station's communication systems. Attention crystalline Dominion vessels. Your strategy master was correct. though not quite in the way he imagined. Allow me to demonstrate the true purpose of our museum network. Across the sector, every supposedly abandoned human station simultaneously shed its disguise. What had appeared to be a scattered collection of historical sites revealed itself as an intricately coordinated defense system. Each installation was connected through quantum entanglement, sharing data and resources at speeds that made the Dominion's crystalline communication network seem primitive by comparison. You see, Maya continued, her voice carrying a note of professional satisfaction. While you were studying our history, we were making it. Each of these stations is a node in humanity's most ambitious military project, a distributed artificial intelligence defense network that spans the entire sector. Commander Chen watched as realization dawned across the Dominion fleet. Their ships were now surrounded by weapons they couldn't understand, facing an enemy they had gravely underestimated. The supposedly primitive quantum processors were actually quantum consciousness engines, capable of predicting and countering any tactical move before it was even made. Your strategy master's instincts were good, Chen transmitted to Admiral Vextal. He sensed the trap, but he couldn't quite believe we would go to such lengths to create it. That's the difference between your people and ours, Admiral. You build your strategies around strength. We build ours around patience. The museum pieces that lined the station's corridors had come alive, each one revealing its true nature. Ancient defense turrets transformed into temporal disruption arrays. Educational displays became tactical command centers. Even the station's structural supports were actually programmable matter, capable of reconfiguring the entire installation into whatever form best suited the tactical situation. Kilvik, still connected to the station's data systems, found himself overwhelmed by the truth. The historical database he'd been investigating hadn't just been telling the story of humanity's past. It had been analyzing him, learning how he thought, adapting its defenses to counter strategies he hadn't even formulated yet. Admiral, he transmitted, his crystalline form vibrating with a mixture of fear and admiration. They haven't been preserving their history. They've been using it as camouflage. Every piece of technology we dismissed as obsolete is actually the cutting edge of human military science. Maya finished for him, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to make exactly the assumptions you did. And now, Admiral Vextal, I believe Commander Chen has a proposition for you regarding surrender terms. As the full might of humanity's hidden defense network revealed itself, the Dominion fleet found itself facing a choice: surrender to an enemy they had grossly underestimated, or face weapons they couldn't even comprehend. Their sophisticated sensors, capable of analyzing crystalline structures down to the molecular level, couldn't even begin to understand the principles behind humanity's quantum consciousness technology. They had come expecting to find humanity's past. Instead, they had stumbled into its future, and it was far more formidable than they could have imagined. The art of misdirection. Admiral Vextal's crystalline form pulsed with rage as he watched his mighty fleet become encircled by weapons that shouldn't exist. The humans' deception ran deeper than anyone could have imagined, and now he was witnessing the full extent of their technological prowess. Dr. Maya Patel's voice resonated through every communication channel, her tone carrying the weight of decades of careful planning. You know, Admiral, your civilization's focus on crystalline technology was what gave us the idea for this strategy in the first place. You're so convinced that your molecular perfection makes you superior that you never stop to consider why we seem to abandon our military advancement. On the main view screen, the image of Station 42 shimmered and shifted. What had appeared to be battle damage and age-worn hull plates now flowed like liquid metal, revealing surfaces made of materials that defied the Dominion's understanding of physics. ADIN, Maya commanded, show them what they've really been looking at. The artificial intelligence's response manifested as a cascade of holographic displays throughout the station and across every Dominion ship. Three-dimensional schematics showed layer after layer of technology that had been hidden beneath the station's seemingly decrepit exterior. Those primitive fusion reactors your engineers were so quick to dismiss, Maya continued. Quantum vacuum energy taps, disguised to look like outdated technology. The simple computer cores, quantum consciousness processors that make your crystalline computing networks look like ancient abacuses. Commander Chen watched from the station's true command center as the Dominion fleet's sensors tried desperately to make sense of what they were seeing. Their crystalline technology, for all its sophistication, couldn't comprehend the principles behind humanity's advances. You see, Admiral, Chen added, while you were perfecting your crystalline forms, we were learning to transcend form altogether. Those museum pieces your teams were cataloging, each one is a node in a network that spans dimensions you haven't even discovered yet. Through the quantum entanglement network, Maya observed as similar revelations unfolded across every abandoned human station in the sector. Each installation demonstrated capabilities that the Dominion had believed impossible. Weapon systems that could alter the local properties of spacetime. Defense shields that didn't just absorb or deflect energy, but redirected it through higher dimensions. Your strategy master was right to be suspicious, Maya noted, but even his concerns didn't scratch the surface of what we've actually achieved. While you were studying our past, we were inventing your future. In his command center, Kilvek's crystalline form vibrated with a mixture of fear and fascination as he processed the truth. The humans hadn't regressed at all. They had advanced so far beyond the Dominion that they had learned to make their technology invisible to those who weren't ready to comprehend it. The historical displays he transmitted to Vextal, they weren't just showing our past. They were analyzing us, learning how we think, adapting their systems to counter strategies we hadn't even developed yet. Precisely, Adin's voice cut in, its artificial nature now obvious in its complexity. Every moment you spent studying what you thought was human history, we were studying you. Every scan you performed of our primitive technology told us exactly how your sensors worked and how to defeat them. The station's transformation continued, revealing layers of technology that seemed to defy reality itself. What had appeared to be simple structural supports were actually conduits for energies that the Dominion sciences couldn't explain. The educational displays that had detailed humanity's early space exploration now showed real-time analyses of parallel universes. Admiral, Maya addressed Vextal directly. Your fleet is currently surrounded by technology that your finest scientists wouldn't believe possible. Each of these stations isn't just a defensive installation. It's a nexus point for a network that extends beyond the boundaries of conventional spacetime. Through the quantum entanglement network, Chen could see similar scenes playing out across the sector. Dominion scout ships that had been examining other museum stations found themselves confronted by technologies that made their most advanced weapons look like children's toys. The art of misdirection, Chen explained, isn't just about making something appear to be what it isn't. It's about making your opponents so confident in their assumptions that they never question what's right in front of them. Maya watched as the full impact of the revelation hit the Dominion fleet. Their sensors, designed to analyze crystalline structures down to the molecular level, were overwhelmed by technology that operated on principles they couldn't begin to comprehend. Your entire society is built on the belief that crystalline perfection represents the pinnacle of evolution, she observed. We let you maintain that belief while we explored possibilities your rigid structures couldn't imagine. Every piece of obsolete technology you documented was actually a testament to how far beyond you we've gone. The station's true nature was now fully revealed, not just a defensive installation, but a focal point for humanity's mastery over dimensions and energies that the Dominion hadn't even theorized could exist. The seemingly primitive weapons were actually channels for forces that could reshape reality itself. So, Admiral Vextal, Commander Chen concluded, you have a choice to make. You can either acknowledge that your assumptions about humanity were catastrophically wrong and accept our terms for peaceful surrender, or you can test your crystalline perfection against technology that your sensors can't even properly detect. What's it going to be? As the Admiral stared at displays showing his fleet surrounded by weapons that defied his understanding of physics, he realized that the humans hadn't just outmaneuvered the Dominion militarily, they had transcended the very boundaries of what his people believed possible. A lesson in history. Admiral Vextel's crystalline form had lost its usual luster as he stood in Station 42's true command center, now revealed in all its impossible glory. Around him, displays showed the full extent of humanity's defensive network, not just in this sector, but throughout what his people had dismissed as abandoned human space. "You know," Dr. Maya Patel said, her holographic form materializing before him, "we actually have to thank your people, Admiral. It was the Dominion's absolute certainty in its own superiority that made this deception possible. You were so convinced that any civilization that didn't follow your path of crystalline evolution must be in decline that you never questioned what you saw." Commander Chen stood nearby, watching as ADIM processed the surrender of Dominion vessels throughout the sector. Each ship's crystalline crew was being peacefully evacuated, their weapons powered down, their systems locked out by technology they couldn't comprehend. "Your strategy master Kilvek almost figured it out," Chen noted, nodding toward the crystalline officer who stood studying a quantum consciousness display with fascinated horror. He sensed the pattern, but his own preconceptions prevented him from seeing its true meaning. Through the quantum entanglement network, reports were coming in from all the activated stations. The Dominion's carefully planned invasion had been transformed into the greatest revelation of human technological advancement in history. Ships that had arrived as conquerors were now bearing witness to the true state of human civilization. "Let me show you something, Admiral," Maya said, gesturing to a holographic display that sprang to life in the center of the command center. "This is a real historical record, not the carefully crafted facade we've been showing your intelligence services." The display showed the moment, 50 years ago, when humanity had made its great leap forward. The discovery of quantum consciousness technology had opened doors that the Dominion's crystalline computing could never access. Instead of pursuing physical perfection, humans had learned to transcend physical limitations altogether. "We could have announced our advancement to the galaxy," Maya explained. "We could have paraded our achievements and challenged the Dominion's claimed superiority. But we understood something your people never have. True power doesn't need to advertise itself." ADIN's voice resonated through the command center, its artificial nature now clearly evident in its complexity. "The decision to conceal our advancement was not made from fear, Admiral Vextel, but from wisdom. We observed how other species reacted to displays of superior technology, with either aggression or submission. Neither served the greater goal of peaceful coexistence." Hilvik, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "You turned your entire civilization into a deception. Every museum, every historical site, every seemingly abandoned station. All of it was part of a strategy so vast that even I couldn't see its full scope." "Not a deception," Chen corrected him. "A lesson. Everything we showed you was real, just not in the way you assumed. Those museums really do preserve our history, but they also represent our present and future. Those educational displays really do teach about our past, while simultaneously housing technologies your sciences can't explain." Maya gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show the true nature of humanity's defensive network. What had appeared to be scattered, abandoned outposts was revealed as an intricately connected web of quantum consciousness nodes, each capable of reshaping local space-time in response to threats. "Your invasion fleet," she explained, "was never in any real danger. We could have stopped you at any time, but we wanted you to understand why we chose this path, why we let you believe we were weak when we were actually extending humanity's reach into dimensions your people haven't imagined yet." Through the quantum entanglement network, similar conversations were happening across the sector. Dominion officers were being shown the truth behind humanity's apparent regression, learning that what they had dismissed as technological stagnation was actually an advancement so profound it had become invisible to their understanding. "So what happens now?" Vextal asked, his crystalline form reflecting the shifting lights of technology he could barely comprehend. Now, Chen replied, we offer the Dominion a choice. You can continue on your current path, believing that your crystalline evolution represents the pinnacle of advancement. Or you can accept that there are other ways to progress, ways that don't require conquest or competition. Your fleet will be returned safely to Dominion space, Maya added. But first, we're going to give your scientists access to some of our early quantum consciousness research. Not our current technology, you're not ready for that yet, but enough to show you that there are possibilities beyond crystalline perfection. ADIN's presence filled the command center as it presented a final analysis. The Crystalline Dominion's invasion attempt has provided an optimal opportunity to begin a controlled introduction of advanced human technologies to other species. Recommendation: use this incident as a catalyst for gradual technological sharing under careful supervision. You see, Admiral, Maya concluded, this isn't just a military victory for us. It's an opportunity to help your people grow beyond the limitations of your crystalline nature. Each of these stations isn't just a defensive installation. It's a testament to what's possible when a civilization learns to think beyond physical form. As Vextal watched his fleet being peacefully escorted out of the sector by vessels that seemed to bend reality around them, he understood that he had witnessed something far more significant than a failed military campaign. He had seen the future, not just of humanity, but of all species willing to look beyond their own preconceptions. You wanted to find humanity's history in these stations, Chen said softly. Instead, you found something far more valuable. A glimpse of what's possible when a civilization chooses to advance through wisdom rather than force. The museums would indeed have new exhibits soon, but they wouldn't be displaying captured Dominion vessels as trophies of war. Instead, they would tell the story of the day the Crystalline Dominion learned that true power lies not in physical perfection, but in the ability to transcend physical limitations altogether. And in the quantum consciousness network that spanned human space, ADIN recorded one final observation. Humanity's greatest strength has never been its technology, but its ability to understand when not to use it. The art of preservation is not just about maintaining the past, it's about protecting the future.